seeing you, understanding the Quran, understanding the ayat, what it's talking about, what it's trying to tell you, by decoding the ayat, decoding the words in Arabic, and realizing what it's talking about, the connection of the ayat, the connection of the meaning too. So let us go and start the lesson from where my sister Aysha just stopped last week, from the page. Yeah, it's just on the screen. So we're going to continue from where. The word, or actually the questions, where. First of all, we have فوق, 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 which is the first word on the left, means above or up. For example, we have an ayah in the Quran.
It seems like Marwa was somehow muted again. Marwa, you were muted again.
I don't know why it's keep unmuting. Okay, so we have the ayah in Surah Al-Mulk. أَوَلَمْ يَرَوْا إِلَى الطَّيْرِ فَوْقَهُمْ. So the ayah is, the translation of the ayah means, do they not see the birds above them? So فَوْقَهُمْ, the birds above them with wings outspread. However, we have the word, the opposite, the word تحت. The opposite of فوق is تحت. تحت means under, under. تحت, under. فوق, above or up. And we have the word تحت in the Quran, in the ayah, in example, as an example, لقد رضي الله عن المؤمنين إذ يبايعونك تحت الشجرة. تحت الشجرة, under the tree. So certainly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pleased with believers when they were with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam under the tree, sitting under the tree. So we have the two words فوق and تحت, above or up and under. The third word بين أيدي أو بين يدي. بين أيدي is plural. However, بين يدي, يدي, like the two hands, it's dual. So in front of, in front of. And for example, we have in Ayatul Kursi, we all know Ayatul Kursi, and I'm sure like everyone memorizes Ayatul Kursi. Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum. And in the middle of the ayah we have من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم. ما بين أيديهم. And then the second word after بين أيدي is خلف. خلف, back or after. So this is the opposite of بين أيدي, خلف, and بين أيدي. So the first one was فوق and تحت, above and up and under. And now بين أيدي and خلف. And we have these two words in the same ayah. يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم. ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what is before them and what will be after them. So ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم. And then we go to the third one, or actually the fifth word, أمام, in front of. In front of. And then وراء, behind. So the first one, فوق, and تحت. And then the second one, بين أيدي, or بين يدي, and خلف. The third one is أمام and وراء. And we have the ayah for وراء. ولما جاءهم رسول من عند الله مصدق لما معهم نبذ فريق من الذين أوتوا الكتاب كتاب الله وراء ظهورهم. So when the messenger from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came to them, which is Bani Israel, confirming that which was with them, a party of those who had been given the scripture through the scripture of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala behind وراء ظهورهم, behind their backs. So the first one, فوق and تحت, بين أيدي and خلف, أمام and وراء. And to be honest, I didn't find, or actually I don't remember an ayah within أمام, but inshallah if I remember I will tell you an example of it, inshallah. And then let's go to the fourth group. Yameen is singular. However, ayman is plural. Yameen means right. And then shimal is singular, means left, or the plural of it, shama'il. Yameen, ayman, shimal, shama'il. So yameen is right and shimal is left.
An ayah for أمام ليفجر أمامه. ليفجر أمامه. In Surah Al-Qiyamah. I just looked it up, so it's not on the top of my head, trust me. I just looked it up.
Okay, and then we have يمين and شمال. لقد كان لسبأ في مسكنهم آية جنتان عن يمين وشمال, on the right and on the hand, on the left. So there was for Saba in their
مسكنهم, in their livelihoods, in their
in the place,
right.
Assign 2 fields or gardens on the right and on the left. And then now we go to bayna, means between. Bayna means between. And وترى الملائكة, let's go to حول. حول means around. So bayna, between. However, حول is around. For حول وترى الملائكة حافين من حول العرش. حافين من حول العرش. The malaika surrounding the angel, surrounding the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then حيث, wherever, and أينما, wherever. حيث ولله المشرق والمغرب. For أينما ولله المشرق والمغرب. فأينما, wherever. فأينما تولوا وجوهكم فثم وجه الله. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala belongs the east and the west. So wherever you turn, there is the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So أينما تولوا, wherever you turn, there is the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. حيث ويرزق, we have the ayah ويرزقه من حيث لا يحتسب. ويرزقه من حيث لا يحتسب. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide him from wherever he does not expect. ويرزقه من حيث لا يحتسب. wherever he does not expect. So this is this one was for the first box. For the opposites here, فوق means above, تحت means under, بين أيدي in front of, خلف back or after, أمام in front of, وراء behind, يمين or أيمان means right, شمال or شمائل. شمائل is plural, means left. بين between, حول around, wherever, and أينما wherever too.
So Marwa, what's the difference?
Is there any questions for
maybe
this
a question
part?
So حيث and أينما, do they both relate to like a dimension or a place, or it can also be like a different angle? So how are they different?
Okay, so أينما is more for a place, and then حيث it could be for a place or a time, but أينما is more specific for a place, but حيث it could be for a place or a time. Any questions? Any more questions for this part?
So for the ayah number, you can actually, you don't have to memorize the ayah number and where it appeared in the Quran. I would recommend that you would generally like know the meanings of the words. For the sister that's asking, can you mention the ayah number and which ayah it was mentioned in? You're not going to be, right now at least, you're not going to be able to memorize all that. So let's focus on the meanings for now. The ayah number, Aisha Akhtar, you can easily download any app, Quran app, and most Quran apps, and where if you have the Arabic writing, you can actually start searching the words in the Quran. It will give you all the words either by root or by the exact word, and it will give you the details of every ayah, how many times it was mentioned in, and if there are any suffixes or prefix or all the different things that relate to it. So there's so many different ayat. Like for example, you can have ma that may appear, just a rough calculation right now. I found it in 1,000. I just wrote that right now. I looked for ma in the Quran and it appeared 1,555 times, just the letter, that word ma. If I were to put kaifa, let's see how many kaifa. You got 83 times for kaifa. This is really fast. This is not on the top of my head. No, I'm not that fast. Meta appeared 9 times. So you could really quick just type it in and you could see it. Men or min appeared 2,477 times. Just men and min. 2,477 times. So you're not going to be able to memorize each and every single one unless you are autistic. That's when you'll be able to, go that computer kind of intelligence to be able to recognize it that many times. So there's Tanzil.net. There's, I love Quran Majid app. It is Quran Majid, and it is just, I believe it was $4.99, and it was really easy to use. You could search the ayah, you could type in the word that you want, and it'll give you all those times. I just did it right now really quick. All right, sorry Marwa, I took over. Could we go for the questions?
That's fine, don't worry.
For the questions column right there.
All right.
All right.
So now go for questions. Ma, the first one, ma as Aisha mentioned, there's more than 1,000 word ma. So it means what, or actually in the Quran, like it has more than maybe 5 meanings or 10 meanings. But the most popular meaning is what. In questioning, it means what or that which, okay? But there are more meanings for it, but this is the main one that we need to memorize or like know till now. And in questioning, there's an example in ayah أم كنتم شهداء إذ حضر يعقوب الموت إذ قال لبنيه ما تعبدون من بعدي. So Yaqub alayhi salam, like when he was like
pretty much testing. So pretty much inquiring and testing his children, ما تعبدون من بعدي, what will you worship after me? And they then replied, this is what we will be worshiping. We will be worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they listed the names of the prophets. So here the ma would more be of an inquiry, and then that would expect a response. But here's one thing, is that like we said, that ma has many different usages, and those many different usages at many times can actually be the reason why scholars may have different interpretations to one particular ayah, because ma itself has many usages. So the most frequent usage is what and which. So if at least we memorize that part, I think is good. And then down the road, you'll probably research different ayat. So it would be easier for you to at least see, especially if you don't know the words and you don't know the ayat. At many times, to give you all the ayat is going to be even more complex, because it becomes like a jargon in where there's so much information and then you get lost. So let's try at least going through those words and at least understand what and how they're used. All right. So for ma, it usually is an inquiry, asking or inquiring about a question, what and or that which. That which is often in the Quran in where it is not an inquiry, but it is more of an explanation. So more an explanation, kind of like giving you the details of what it is. All right, sorry, Marwa, go ahead.
That's fine. And now next is man. Man means who, and it's for human, who, or the one who. Like if you want it more specific, we ask the one who, or men. The third one, meta, means when, or the time when. It could be like in general, if we ask meta in general, and it could be like for more specific, we could use it in a sentence, or like it could be mentioned in the Quran in an ayah for like more specific. Aina means where, and Aina means where. And if you remember, we just talked about in questioning where, we had the word aina ma, connecting aina with ma. We had aina ma, asking for the wherever. So we have aina ma, so it's combining aina with ma. Now here it's separate, aina by itself and ma by itself. So each has a different meaning. Aina by itself has meaning where, but ma has what. Combining aina and ma, we have wherever. Now kaifa, how, kaifa, it's like a general question. You will have an explanation after the question kaifa. Kam, how many. Here it says in a questioning, it's how many, it's questioning how many, but it could be telling it's more, it could be like mentioned in the Quran, telling telling you how many, not questioning. It could be telling, not questioning. Ay means which. Ayu or ayu means which. And this is like a specific questions. Sorry, a specific question. Anna, anna, where from or why? Where from or why? And then the hamza, a or hal, it could be used for many questions. Is, am, أأنتم أشد خلقا أم السماء بناها. أنتم, أنتم. Is, am, are, do, have. And then ماذا, what. ماذا, what. لما or لماذا, here we added a lam for the word or the question ماذا. لما and لماذا. لماذا. So ماذا by itself without the lam means what. لما or لماذا, why. Why. لولا, لولا means if not or why not. لولا. Any love, Aisha?
So I think it would be important to mention, I loved how you said for come, that sometimes it's inquiring and sometimes it's actually informing you of a form of exaggeration, not an exaggeration to mean that it is somehow not reflecting the amount, but it is telling you it is actually informing you for you to know that the amount is a large number, that it is big, that it's a magnificent. It's like just like the ayah, كم من فئة قليلة غلبت فئة كثيرة بإذن الله. That it was telling you that it is كم من فئة. It's not asking you how many people that they were large in troops, a small number in troops, but they actually had overcome a large number. It's not asking you, but here it is actually giving you the time to contemplate about those numbers, about those great numbers. So the kam usually involves a number, usually involves either to inform you that it's a magnificent number, or it can also ask you, well, give me the answer to it. So that's for the kam. The ay, you will always have, for ay, you will always have partitions. So ayul fariqain, you will always have two things here because it's comparing two things. So this is more of a comparison. For anna, it is more telling you, asking you, and the inquiry is about anna, like how is it and where. Most of the times in terms of places, not always in the Quran is it asking you to answer. Again, most of these are not asking you to answer because in the Quran Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the answer, but this is actually telling you and informing you as a way of contemplating, as a way of giving that moment to rethink and overthink what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us. The other part is lawla. I think I want to comment on lawla because lawla, it actually means so imtina' al-wujud, where the reason why such a thing did not happen is really because lawla. Lawla is really because if such a thing didn't happen, it is because for example, such and such was present. So for example, وَلَقَدْ هَمَّتْ بِهِ وَهَمَّ بِهَا لَوْلَا أَنْ رَأَى بُرْهَانَ رَبِّهِ. The ayah says, and he had or she had lust for him, and he had lust for her. لولا أن رأى برهان ربه. In English, if we were to translate that literally, that he also had lust for her. But لولا would totally cancel out that he had any lust for her, and that would mean that he had no lust for her because he had seen the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now we see that لولا is explaining that he would have had lust if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not put in those signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his heart and that inspiration, and he would have actually also have had lust for her as well. So you could see that lawla canceling out what would have been a reality if such a thing did not happen. And this lawla is really important to keep in mind within that context. So I think let's move on for the other parts, which is the final boxes here. We've got miscellaneous, and we need to finish these two boxes today, inshallah. So the miscellaneous, and Marwa, if you would want to start. So we've got the miscellaneous. All right. So the miscellaneous, so you've got the thu, the, and the. For the thu, the, and the, it is more giving us that the person actually is attributed, that attribute is belonging to that person, that attribute belongs to that person, that particular item is actually owned by that person. But here's one thing, is that thu and the is not always relating to the a materialistic ownership, but many times it can be an attribute that relates to that person. Very similar to that, but Marwa, if you can unmute yourself and kind of explain the thu and the and the and that, and how they are a little different, because when we're talking about thu and that would be feminine. Thu and the and the. This is very often coming in the Quran. Thu, and the and the would not,
الفضل العظيم, for example.
الفضل العظيم would not necessarily mean for the thu that it is different, okay? Because the part of speech is the reason why they would come in thu and the and the. So the part of speech, whether it's marfu', majroor, etc., those would be more of a grammatical change, but they actually mean the exact same thing. And uli and ulu, ulu and uli and ahl. So those would be pretty much the same thing, in where they're people or relatives or also an attribute. So when we say ulil albab, ulil albab, the people of albab, lub is like the core, the people that have deep cores, it's a metaphor to mean the people that have deep insights. Ahl and al. Those are two similar things, ahl and al. So you've got ahl and al would more be family and relatives. So ahl, or al, the al al-bayt, for example, would mean the relatives. And then ahl and al do both include the wife. Sometimes the ahl could also mean wife as well. So ahl and al, relatives, al al-bayt, the family, etc. Ala and ni'ma. Well, ala is different than ni'ma. So these are miscellaneous. So don't confuse it and think that they're right now put in categories. All right. So ala بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب. So here, doesn't it, will it not? Doesn't it so ala is more, it is questioning, but you want to be careful, because ala comes in positions where it's actually letting you answer the question And in that debate or in that questioning and inquiry, it's actually putting you as a witness on this. As a witness on this. So, ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب. This is not asking you the question, but this is actually letting you be the witness. ألا, doesn't it? Isn't that the case? Ni'ma. Ni'ma, another miscellaneous part. What an excellent. The opposite of ni'ma is bi'sa. So you got ni'ma and bi'sa. Two opposite things. Ni'ma رجل عبد الله لو كان يصلي بالليل. What a great man he would be if only he was praying at night. Bi'sa. Bi'sa is the opposite of ni'ma. Bi'sa. Bi'sa meaning what a horrible or what an evil thing that would be. Like bi'sa al-masir. What a horrible ending. What a horrible destination that would be. And ni'ma al-mawla wa ni'ma al-nasir. Ni'ma al-mawla would mean ni'ma, what a great mawla, what a great supporter or authority. Wa ni'ma al-nasir. And what a great victory that would be. So you could see ni'ma and bi'sa coming frequently. And usually, by the way, you will find it in the Quran. In the Quran, it's always comparing things in order for you to see the alternatives, in order for you to compare probably a position in Jannah compared to a position in hellfire. Maybe a group, the party of the evildoers versus the party of the good. The good doers. So it's always comparing. And the same thing when it's telling you ni'ma and bi'sa, you will pretty much find it around the same area. You will find those words within the same context, within the same area. And in order to give you that similarities and that comparison and that patternship, in order to see how they relate to one another and give you the free will to actually choose after comparison. Bi'sama and mithla. Maybe I should put these two together. Bi'sa and bi'sama. So you've got bi'sa and bi'sama. Bi'sa, what an evil. But bi'sama, what an it's an evil is that which in its. Now this is actually combination. It's more of two words. It's bi'sa and ma, which is this ma right there. So this is an addition. Bi'sama is bi'sa plus this ma right there. So that's why you could see evil is that which. Here it goes. Here's that which right there. All right. So now you see bi'sa or evil is that which is such and such. Now you can't have bi'sama on its own, but it's going to be a complete sentence that has to complete it. Mithla and mithl and mathala are, although may look similar, but they're actually a different word. Mithla is giving you similitude. It's giving you a similitude, telling you this is such as that. So this mithla is such as. Such. Now to move on, how did we get there? All right. Now the other part is mathala. Mathala. If I can unmute Marwa for a second, and Marwa, maybe you can explain to me mathala and mithla. Comparison in those two. Mithla and mathala.
Okay, so mithla, it's more when it's exactly similar or very close similar. Mathala, it's when you're trying to give an example. It's an example of thing. Like for example, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran tells us about something. For example, maybe sadaqah or maybe let's say the sadaqah. And then he will explain that, or the ajr of the mutasaddiq, starting by a story or by explanation, starting by مثل or مثل الذين ينفقون أموالهم كمثل. So this is like more for explaining or giving an example. However, mithla is more similar or something very close. You're trying to um, show it how similar to each other. Was that clear?
Yep. So the mithla, when it's exactly the same, and mathala, you're giving an example, or you're more giving give an idea, by using patterns. By the way, you know, in the Quran, the issue of patterning, is always present. The issue of patterning, in where it tells you, well, if you want to see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the world around you, well, look at the pattern in the world, look at the pattern in plants, look at the pattern in the way that stars are created, or whatever. So always, it doesn't always answer the question directly, but it may give you a method, it may give you an example, just like when Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam actually inquired, and he said, Arini kayfa tuhyi al-mawta, can you show me how you bring the dead back to life? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just tells him, فَخُذْ أَرْبَعَةً مِّنَ الطَّيْرِ, just, you know, take those four different kinds of birds, and see how even after you had put and chopped them up and put each one on a different mountain, and then you would call them coming to you, how they will each go back to their own origin. That similitude and that patterning is always present, in order to give you an idea, because as a human you may not fully comprehend the actual item. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you to see the similitudes, see the patterns, to reflect on answering those questions by looking at the patterns of things, to get an idea of how things work. By the way, it's amazing, because that's not only in the Quran, but that's the same thing in everything in the world, and even in the fine tuning in physics and math and chemistry. We always use patterning, and that's why even in Islamic history, the Muslims were learning how to use and how to grow in understanding the world through the science that they had learned, the similitude. And that's why in the Islamic calligraphy and in Islamic art, there's always the patterning, the shapes and the patterning always present, because of the word mathala and mithla, similitude, to see the patterns in the world around you. Mimman. Mimman is composed of two different things, min and men. Didn't we do this before? Well, look at the men. Men would mean who when you're inquiring about a person, but min would actually mean from. So you've got min is from. Cake is from min, flour, for example. The cake is made of flour. So my daughter just brought me a cake and I had to talk about it. So min, men. So here, min is from, but it was combined together and formed into mimmen, but it's actually both. Min men. Oh, so min and men together. Let's move on right here, and we're going to move that in those questions where it inquires about timing. Timing, so qabla, before, ba'da, after. Hina, it's talking about a time period. So it's talking about when, the duration. It's talking about a certain time period that a certain matter happens. So it's always giving you some, not necessarily the specific timing of it, but it's giving you a period, you know, kind of to help you understand when, or maybe an idea of what period are we talking about. إذ, and this is very often mentioned in the Quran. إذ, إذ is usually, although here I'm going to look it up really quick and actually see how many times did the word إذ come in. So it occurred 239 times and 220 ayahs. 239 times the word إذ came in. So إذ آتينا, إذ قال, إذ. And the word إذ is really important because it usually comes informing you about something in the past. But the Quran always brings up the past in order for you to again see the pattern. Because if you learn about the past, if you look through the past, you're able to understand where the future is going. And that is why in the Quran, the word "id" comes often in order to help you. Well, how are you going to expect, or how are you going to estimate or predict what will happen in the future? Well, the Quran always takes you in a different pattern, in where it tells you to go look back in history. Remember in the past when such an issue happened. Remember when such an issue on a story, etc. So "id" is usually coming in telling you about a story. "Id" is telling you about something that happened in the past. "Id" is also explaining something to help you see. Go look through the lens of the past. Through By looking at the lens in history, then you're able to see the lens in the future. You're able to predict. You're able to see where things are heading, where things are going. And "id" is many times giving you when, but many times it is asking you to remember. It is asking you to reflect through history. And that's when you will see "id." "Ida" is more giving you that it's telling you, well, if you looked into the past, but there's not only in the past, it's always, well, because you don't know the future, so it will tell you either that if, either, when, either, it can be if and it can be when. Because you don't know the future, it will tell you either in case, or if such a matter happens, or when such a matter happens. It will always complete the sentence by telling you what the consequence might look like. So "either" is always going to tell you, well, the consequence is going to be looking like this, and that's why we told you what the history what was. So know what the history was in order to know either what the future will look like. So here, always it will be either, and then giving you what the prediction is going to be. And thumma. Thumma is different than thamma, because thamma with a fatha, thumma and thamma, they do appear in the Quran, but thumma is giving you a time lapse. There, it didn't necessarily happen right away. There was a time lapse, there was a period in that transition, and that transition is basically not like the fa, because the fa would happen instantly. So there was an instant transition from one position to another, but the fa was instant. But the thumma, there was a time lapse, an hour, 2 hours, 3 days, a year, 50, 40 years, maybe longer time even. This is then. Thumma, then. Thamma is more explaining where. All right, although they look the same, but they're a little different, because you're talking about a destination. Sorry, not a destination, but you're talking thamma. You're more talking about a position. Thamma wajhullah. There you will find the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So thamma would more be explaining in a place. So there would be. But thumma is speaking about not place, but actually a timing. So thumma, it is the transition of time, and thamma is speaking about a place. So let's put thamma here and thumma, all right? So thamma and thumma. Thumma, again, telling you about thumma. Thumma is more thumma, then such a matter will happen. But thamma, there such a thing will be. Fa, again, a transition, but an instant transition. Or not always, because there's so many different meanings just for the letter fa, by the way. It can be an instant transition. So let's just put in a couple of meanings. So an instant transition, and it can also mean thus or therefore. So sababiyya, so meaning giving you a reason. The reason why these people dwelled in hellfire is because they were criminals or such and such. This is the reason for that matter. So that would be then, therefore. You got three different items. Those are the most common items, but there are actually a lot more meanings just for the letter fa. Just for the letter fa. You can write actually a whole PhD dissertation just on the letter fa in the Quran. One of my teachers wrote a master's dissertation just on the letter fa in the Quran, just on the letter fa in the Quran. And that was a whole master's dissertation. And mashallah, she did a good job, and everybody praised her dissertation. Bal is different than, we did lawla before. Bal and lawla maybe similar in some ways, but bal is more tufid al-idrab, which means that no, here you are canceling out one item, but here you're canceling it out totally. You're canceling it out totally, meaning you're saying, no, it is not that, but it is rather this. You're totally canceling out, you're totally rejecting, you're totally refuting one matter, and you are affirming. So you have to, with bal, you have to have two items. One rejecting, one side of it is rejecting, and the other side of it is affirming. So you're going to find a rejection of one matter, and you're going to find an affirmation of another matter. You always have to have bal, where there is a rejection of an item and affirming another item. And this is bal. So rather but. And in order to affirm or reject a matter, well, then you would have to put in the replacement. What is the alternative of your rejection? You're rejecting a matter. Well, so what are you affirming then? Then that's where bal. So I would ask you, did you do such a thing to Salwa? And you would say, bal, I did this and this. It's like, no, you're saying, no, I didn't do this, but in fact I did such and such. So this is bal. I know you guys always speak with enthusiasm. By the way, just on the side, I am actually part from Al Khalil, and we're known for being really affirmative people. So that's my side. عند لدى and ladun. Now عند لدى and ladun. عند is more speaking about a place. عند, near. لدى is more speaking about having something. So العند, speaking about a place. لدى is more that the person has. لدن is near. Ladun is near. So I know they should have actually put those in different categories, but it's okay. So عند is meaning, it can also, by the way, عند can also mean that the person عندي أكل, عندي means I have. So it can also mean to have something. And this can also mean to have something. And this can also mean to have something. And عند can also mean to have, and can also mean near. So just be careful. Not always does عند عند mean to have something. So عند Hamza laptop. So Hamza has a laptop. But عند, or I could say عند الشجرة, near the tree, next to the tree. So you could see that عند can also have different meanings. One to mean the property or ownership, and another meaning, it can also mean in place. So it's talking about, well, near such and such, there is such. لدى and ladun would always be that there is ownership, that they have such a matter. In and illa. In illa. This is very similar in illa to bal, but this is canceling out and affirming something, but this is more specifying. So this is more specifying. In, and then if you find illa, it's kind of like in French that you would see the nu and pas. In French, there's always the nu and pas together, that they come together, and that's the same thing. Sorry for those that know French. So that's the same thing, in where you got in and illa. So if you have those two items in the ayah, it would be canceling out nothing but. So it's giving you an exception here. All right. So there's nothing but one matter. Sometimes the exception is to only affirm that item that was excluded from the complete generalization. And sometimes that in and illa can sometimes mean that it's canceling out a matter and affirming another. So really similar to this one, but there's always this one. There illa would more be to specify an exception to a general to the generalization that was mentioned in that particular verse. Ma and illa. Ma and illa. So Marwa, if you can explain to me the ma and illa. Marwa, are you there? Marwa, it seems like she had left. Oh, no, she is. Marwa, if you can explain to me the ma and illa and the in and illa, how different are they from each other? So Marwa, I'm trying to unmute Marwa. All right, so she's not there, or at least she was. All right, so ma and illa and in and illa. You got ma, illa, and in illa. You could see nothing but and nothing but. Both of them say nothing but. So when you speak about in illa, when those two different sides would appear in the Quran, this would be that generalization, but this would also be a generalization, but that generalization would more be relating to more general things. So this in is enough affirmation, but ma would more be negating a certain matter. And Allah, here's the Allah, sorry, this is Allah. And Allah is actually composed of two different items, an and la. So an and la, and it was put together, the Arab put it together, and they said Allah, but it is actually composed of two different items, an and la. An is more that, and la is not. La. And la. So that is not. Allah, Allah meaning that is not. That is not. And you might ask, well, why is it with the when? And the reason why some of those are combined together is really to help you see those the patterning when it inquires about timing or a period or something that might happen in the future past, or even when during an certain instance. All right, so Hamza just sent me that the Quizlet. So there is a Quizlet that was already done, and it will to help you. I hope I can open it right now and actually show it to you on the screen. I will have to send it to myself first. And so there's box 3 and box 4 on the Quizlet, and that way everybody else can see it. And inshallah, hopefully you can benefit from those. So if we could just make it a little bit fun, we're just going to see really quick who is prepared to do the fast test. So if you think you're prepared to do the fast test, go ahead and just raise your hand and I will unmute you in order for us to kind of see if you got boxes 1, 2 at least, and not 3 and 4. I know we didn't do boxes 3 and 4 yet. So let's see if we can get that. The other part is we've got the Quizlet. So I'm going to share it with you. The Quizlet, where is it? And here it is. Here's the Quizlet. All right. And this is Jazakumullah khairan. And this is Quizlet 3, and I will be sending Quizlet 4. So got Fawqa is under, and it will give you in front of, back, after. Okay. Okay, I'm confused now. So click to see the definition. Okay, so you would click to see the definition, and it will tell you what it is. So right and oath, that's the yameen. All right, so let's see another word. Left, what is left? And, oh, I would have to have an account. Okay, so we would have to have an account in order to open it up. And you could see at least, see what, you can do with that to help you kind of grow and kind of test those meanings and stuff. Okay, now it's asking me to sign in, but it would still be, something really important. I will be making tests though. I will be making tests so that we can work on these together, so that we can grow and learn these and make sure that we have them in place. So next week we will be having a test, and the test is just going to be on these 4 boxes. All right. The test is going to be on the 4 boxes. The test is going to be where I'm just going to give you the words and you're just going to answer them. Don't worry. The test is not going to be asking you the number of ayat and the number of times every single word, and how many times it appeared in the Quran. I don't even know that. All right. I had to, really fast kind of punch in those words and actually see how many times they appeared. All I want you to do is pretty much see it like this. So if I were to add kam, and I would say, or kum here, and I would put these 3 dots, and you're going to say yours truly. Antum, and you're going to say you all, and so forth. So this is basically it. We're just going to do this this page, and hopefully Monday we will be doing boxes 5 and 6. Our goal is to complete 2 boxes every single hour, and hopefully we can finish in 20 classes, and hopefully inshallah even before that, in order for you to catch up and actually translate the Quran yourself. I promise you, inshallah, you'll get there. You will be so excited. In the beginning, you're like, okay, what am I memorizing here? How am I going to actually use these words to interpret and get to the goal that you're hoping to get us to? It is exactly like swimming. When you're first learning how to swim, or you're first learning how to drive, you are excited to go on the highway, or you're excited to jump deep in the waters, but in order to glide, you first have to learn the technique of holding your breath. You got to learn how to be patient, and you got to learn how to have that sabr for getting the ilm. And same thing with driving. Don't go on the highway before at least you know how to simply slam the brakes first. If you don't know how to slam the brakes and you're so excited to accelerate, well, you're going to get into a crash. So don't accelerate before you learn how to put those brakes and how to steer the wheel, even if it's in the parking lot. Jazakumullah khairan, everybody. And hopefully we'll see you all, what's today? Saturday? Monday. I'm very excited. Are we going to access the recording? Yes, I will be uploading it on YouTube, and that way it will be available for everybody, inshallah. So yes, I learned how to do it, so I will be putting it out there, inshallah. All right, Assalamu alaikum, everybody, and Jazakumullah khairan for attending. If there's anybody with a question, I'd be really happy to answer it. Yes, time flies in this class. I try as much as I can to go as fast as I can to even put in, different things in there. And I know with Zoom, sometimes things can be, because you are distant from the person, and especially for those visuals, 80% of our communication is through person to person and eye and, face communication, facial communication. So sometimes it can be hard. So that's why I try using as much as I can to annotate on our screen to help us at least connect with a different type of expression. And hopefully this will bring in the 40% that we usually get, at least bring it up to at least 70% with some of that annotate. So hopefully, inshallah, you'll get it. And hopefully, inshallah, we'll stay connected, even if it's via Zoom. And even if it's, with this during COVID, let's do something. And let's at least make it a goal that we will get there to at least be able to translate and understand what those ayat are saying. All right, everybody. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And see you Monday.